I'm just not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate I've got Ryan Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. He's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And Mitch, I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's your bad.
You are now listening to Open Season. Your host, Billy Allen.
That's me. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Open Season. I'm your host, Billy Allen. We're going to be riding it hard through the 9 o'clock hour. Got a lot on the table. It is an action-packed Tuesday. Patriots didn't look so Patriots-like this weekend. And we saw Russell Wilson, who got another weapon in Josh Gordon, not really look like he needs him. He threw 5 touchdowns, really polishing up that MVP trophy that he's working on this year. The Red Sox, J.D. Martinez did the unthinkable, and he signed it. So him as well as David Price, both of them decided to stay longer with the Red Sox, something I would have never imagined. And that's got people thinking all kinds of different things. So let's get into it a little bit here with the NFL and a little bit of last night. The Cowboys season, we're a little bit after Halloween, but the season for the Cowboys, was it saved by a black cat? That's actually a headline that I saw today. And it's pretty funny because these announcers were just absolutely going, over themselves, and we've actually got the clip. I think we'll play it here. But guys just absolutely going insane about the cat coming on the field. Here we go.
Now on the field. Halloween this past week, and a black cat is running across MetLife Stadium.
Now they're going to give you some analysis on the cat.
Is this going to be bad for the Cowboys? If you're superstitious, if you goes to black cats now on Monday Night Football on MetLife. Oh boy.
Oh, this ought to be fun here.
And if this Cowboys season doesn't go the way it was expected to, blame that guy.
I mean, look at his change of direction.
He's got great lateral movement.
Oh, my goodness.
And we got skills in them.
So the cat with great lateral movement.
Oh, there he goes.
God, I mean, I couldn't get over these guys, these announcers, just having such a party with themselves about the cat and how it's a couple days after World Series, a couple days after Halloween and everything like that. But these guys absolutely just like falling over themselves with laughter, talking about the cat. Now the Cowboys were down 9-3 and ended up coming back after the cat, so that's kind of what brought the whole cat comeback. But you saw the Cowboys get right this weekend. You saw Dak Prescott throw 3 touchdowns. You finally saw Zeke Elliott kind of look like the Zeke that we saw bowling his way towards the end last year. 148 yards on the ground for him. So that's kind of been the get-right game for the Cowboys this year. 2 games against the Giants where they've really looked good. So it's been a season of up and downs for them, but they get things together against the Giants. And, with the NFL continuing to grasp at straws to make Monday night games more exciting, they throw a black cat onto the field and give us a little fun. Or at least the announcers, Tony Romo, my God. These guys are talking about the cat like it's their own that they grew up with. I mean, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. So anyway, the season saved by the black cat. Now somebody whose season is probably not going to be saved, and Stephen A. Smith really does a good job of kind of getting me up on the pre-rant here. But somebody whose job may not be saved this year is Adam Gase, and Stephen A. Smith, putting it not so politely for you or us, Stephen A. Smith on Adam Gase and his job so far this year.
He's a waste of time. He never should have been the head coach for the New York Jets to begin with. Listen, this is a guy that, as far as I'm concerned, didn't do that great of a job in Miami, which is within the same division. And you come to the New York Jets, and listen, I'm not going to even get into the fact that when he first got the job with the New York Jets, he showed up to that press conference. I'm going to say it. He looked high. Okay? Somebody needs to say, go back. He looked high. Period. Had me wondering what the hell is he on. Okay? But listen, here's the bottom line. In the end, the man
that
is
video
not.
is wild.
Listen,
Sorry to interrupt you,
absolutely.
but
Look
it
at
is
that video.
just
Go ahead and look at
crazy.
it. He don't look high.
But that's a
I'm
different
making it
kind
up.
of high, Stephen.
Whatever.
That's like a bugging
Did I
out
get
high.
specific? Did I get specific? I didn't say what kind of high it was. I don't know. But he didn't look normal, okay? And let me say this, please. I'm glad the camera's back on me. I don't know Adam Gase from a can of paint. I just know that he never deserved the Jets head coaching job. As far as I'm concerned, he's proven it. And let me tell y'all what I find most egregious. How the hell do you come from Miami, one playoff game in 3 years? You were never that impressive. You get the head coaching job for the New York Jets. And before you've ever coached a preseason game, you somehow garnered the power to fight to get rid of the GM, Mike McCagnon. Okay, so you picked Joe Douglas, the GM. And I'm not casting any aspersions on Joe Douglas.
And I mean, honestly, it just kind of gets better from there. I mean, Stephen A. Smith not laying anything back. And that's going to sound the first turkey for us here. In the month of Thanksgiving, we want to be as spirited as we can. And each week, we're going to be calling out a turkey. And Adam Gase is the lucky one this week.
It's time for Turkey of the Week.
And you had it right there. Stephen A. Smith doing the absolute, just bringing it in and kind of talking about it. But so many stats to put it in so many different ways. Adam Gase, 1-7, going against now the Jets stand at 1-7. Their season completely over. And you looked at a team that going into this year, you thought that they had some of the pieces to possibly make them work. And how many times have we heard it? Adam Gase, quarterback whisperer. He's worked with Tannehill, Cutler. Granted he hasn't had your Joe Montanas, your Steve Youngs, but is it really that much of an accomplishment to get some of these C-minus quarterbacks to put up a B-minus effort when you had that happen with guys like Tannehill, Cutler? If you actually look at the last 3 years that Adam Gase has coached, his team has been last and third and long the past 3 years. And that's because he's the dump-off king. You look at Sam Darnold. This kid is big. He's got a big arm. And how many times do we see them look to dump the ball off? How many times do we see them not be able to convert on third down? And the stats have it for you. They've been the worst team on third down. They've been the worst team on second down conversions over the past 3 years with Adam Gase behind the helm. And you heard it right there with Stephen A. Smith saying, he did jack it with the Dolphins. He took Jay Cutler off the street one year and made him decent. But aside from that, I think the most impressive thing was that he was able to get Jay Cutler off the couch. But some of the stats for you, too. Through the first 4 games of the season, the team had 16 offensive points. At one point, 164 consecutive plays without an offensive touchdown, 34 consecutive drives without a touchdown, 11 points in 12 quarters at one point. And this is a guy that we're looking at as an offensive guru. So you run through it. This is not a guy that you bring on for defense. This is the new wave of the NFL where you try to get a coach that's going to be able to coach up your quarterback. And Adam Gase has not been able to do that. And he's got a prodigy or a quarterback who you feel like can be a starter in this league and can be a starter for 10, 15 years, and he's really wasting it. A lot of us probably don't think that Le'Veon Bell is maybe the greatest teammate or greatest person or whatever because you hear about all of his, he's always looking for the biggest contract, but guy really does work his tail off. I follow him on Snapchat, and guy's an absolute beast. And he actually was saying that when they get out of the huddle, a lot of times players don't exactly know where to stand. So they'll break huddle. A lot of guys are just kind of standing there. And, I mean, could you even imagine something happening like that in Foxborough? Guys breaking a huddle and just not even lining up in position, kind of poking each other around to get lined up. it's an absolute joke, and it's amazing that in New York that Adam Gase can just be this guy that didn't do well for the Dolphins. Now he's relocated up to the Jets. How long do the Jets have to hang on to him? Can they fire him during this year? A lot of people are starting to call for his head, and I think that he should. I think ultimately that he should be fired. He's shown that he cannot work this offense, and he's shown that he can't have any playoff success. And it's just a shame that he's working with Sam Darnold, a guy that's got a big arm, and it's just captain check down, dump off. Oh, I don't know where my guys are. Even during the week, you saw that Jamal Adams was saying that they I think we have one ringing through here. Hi, you're on with Open Season.
Yo, Billy, it's Whitey from Queens.
Hey, Whitey, what's going on, my friend?
Not much, man. So, we're talking about Adam Gase. I know your listeners in the New England area are not aware of, but I've been following the New York sports media, and oh my God, man, Adam Gase, like, Jets fans are like looking for his head, dude. They are like, this is literally like the French Revolution type of thing. They're calling for his head. Every single caller that goes to on all the sports shows, fire Gase. And I swear that Stephen A. clip was absolutely hilarious because I thought the same thing. He looked high.
Was he high?
He was high.
And then he's like, I don't know what type of high. It's like you're clearly saying he was high.
No, dude, I watched his introductory press conference because like they streamed it live when I was watching Michael Kay.
Yep.
And I was saying the same thing. I'm like, what the hell? Like, I could tell he was on uppers, and you know me from my history. I know about uppers.
You know a little something.
I know a little something about
from
uppers.
Your pharmacy schooling, right?
Yeah. I mean, dude, his eyes were bulging out of his head. Like, he literally it looked like he just like did a rail of blow like right before the press conference. So like, I'm there with Stephen A. Like, I thought that was hilarious.
All right, so we're going to get an agreement on him. But, yeah, so guys want his head, right? And the one thing that's funny to me, Whitey, is because there's this guy, Manish Mehta, that always writes, and we always get his clips because he's a big Jets guy. But before the season, he was all about Gase. And now, like, every week it's been like, you know, just he'll post, like, another terrible stat about Gase and just talk about how wrong he was.
Well, I think, I mean, if you get rid of like the weeks where, you know, Sam Darnold had mono. So let's say, okay, so week 2 he has mono. He's out 4 weeks. But like Sam Darnold has really regressed over the last, like he had that great game against the Cowboys. And then Sam Darnold really regressed. And this guy is supposed to be like the quarterback whisperer. So I think this is why Jets fans really want him gone, because Sam Darnold is the only franchise QB the Jets have had, you know, since Joe Namath. I remember I said this earlier.
Exactly,
so
and Gase is brought in basically. He's this like new part of the head coaches where it's kind of like they have that close-knit relationship with the. I mean, Gase is only there for Darnold, and if he can't be of value to Darnold, then he's got to get the hell out, right?
Especially if Darnold regresses, because I'm not a Jets fan, but like hearing from Jets fans and hearing from my friends, it's like, if Darnold regresses, you got to get out of there. You know what I mean? Like, because
Darnold,
you need to see.
He could because last year he had a pretty decent year as a rookie. So he definitely, there's a chance that he could, right?
Yeah, I mean, what the outrage in New York is basically Darnold regressing, because Darnold, he's like that. He's like the jewel that you have. You know, like he's like the Maserati you have. It's like
the crown jewel.
If someone starts banging, if someone takes like an axe to like your Maserati, it's like, get him out of here quick. Like that's basically how Jets fans feel, because it's like you need somebody to have Darnold progress, and if he regresses, then get him out of here. Because I don't think Jets fans are expecting wins, but if they see Darnold not progressing, they're extra sensitive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I mean, before the season started, I saw the Jets as a team that probably wasn't going to do anything crazy, but I saw them as a team that was going to win 7 or 8 games. So I think even though they didn't have the highest expectations for the playoffs, I think they are going to be a bit upset if they finish 2-14,
Yeah.
3-13. I think they were shooting for around a 7-9 win season. It seemed like.
And that's the thing, and that's why Jets fans are going crazy right now, because let's say they finish, they just lost to the Dolphins. And Adam Gase literally said that he was not embarrassed after that loss. And that's where Michael Kay hammered him. He's like, how can you not be embarrassed after losing to a team that's intentionally tanking? The Dolphins are tanking.
Yeah.
The player, in the NFL, players don't tank. Players.
Yeah, Gase has to actually
clarify
that he's actually trying.
Yeah, it's like how can you not admit to being embarrassed after losing to the Dolphins? I think that's where everyone's losing their mind over.
Well, what's getting you to blow your lid, Whitey?
Yeah, I mean, I've been up in arms over the officiating, and I'm pretty sure if you ask any fan across the country, they're going to have the same opinion. The officiating has been brutal this year, especially the pass interference rule. I mean, I'm a Steelers fan. I want my team this past week. Okay, so in the fourth quarter, towards the end of the game, the Steelers had a lead, and the Colts' backup quarterback basically threw a 50-yard pass, and they called pass interference, and it clearly wasn't pass interference. The DB, literally, his hand grazed the guy's jersey.
I can just picture you telling this to your grandkids as you're telling it to me right now. The whole setup and all this. Go ahead.
And basically, his hand grazed the guy's jersey. So the terrible ref threw a flag, and this is a game deciding call, So then they challenge it, and basically, if you look at all the coaches' record of challenges against the pass interference call, they're 5. I read it was 5 and 52 or something. So they're basically so stubborn. They're not overturning any PI calls.
Yep.
So it's what's the point of the rule? Obviously the rule is only implemented just to satisfy the outraged Saints fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely ridiculous. It's they want to slow down everything and add more and more interpretation to a game that's tough enough to interpret at such a quick pace. And we've got another one.
You would think that, okay, so obviously pass interference is a judgment call, right? So shouldn't the judgment be updated after looking at the footage, right?
That's what I'm saying. Every year they try to say, they try to qualify it somehow, and they'll be it has to be this type of a kit. But all they do is at the end of it, they say that it's up to some type of judgment, right? So at the end of the day, it's just it's something that, there's no black and white. You have to get 2 feet in on this. Now everything's open to discretion, and you can't challenge any of it and win on it. I mean, we've seen Freddie Kitchens, the guy. I don't know if the guy's had a timeout in the second half for the last 3 or 4 weeks. These guys are having a pretty tough time with it. But it's absolutely brutal to watch because as a fan, you don't know what's real and what's fake. You're they've thrown a penalty the last 4 plays. They're probably going to throw it on this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole other area of outrage in my point. All right, the only way I can enjoy watching NFL is if I'm watching Red Zone, where it's all right, they flipped to this game. Oh, what a nice play in the end zone. Is one of my fantasy players involved in that play? Oh, but if you're actually watching as a fan, of your team, having watched Steelers games, I've just been outraged over these pass interference calls because it's
I think it's amazing that they've got a whole crew on it, and then they send it to New York, and we all watch it and can tell from our home. My mother can tell from making meatballs in the kitchen that there's no pass interference on this. But 5 officials that are paid, $2 million between all of them or whatever, they can't even come to the bottom of this. So it's I'm sitting on my couch, and I can tell that this is clearly not pass interference.
You can tell, as a viewer, you can tell by the footage if it's pass interference or not. So shouldn't the judgment call not be based on the initial play, where the play is running at 100 miles per hour, and the official has to throw a flag in real time? shouldn't the judgment be applied to the footage of the replay? That's where like the real judgment is, you know. And like basically the refs are not overturning any of the challenges, and it's absurd. Like as a Steelers fan, dude, like they threw this BS pass interference call in the fourth quarter. If Vinatieri didn't miss that kick to seal the Steelers' victory, I would have lost it. I literally would have. I work, dude. I work in the same building as the NFL headquarters. Like, you know, and there's like, oh, let's send it to Park Avenue.
Oh man, so you can just
Like,
get
dude,
personal.
I work in the same exact building. Like, I don't know. You heard stories how I saw like Chad or just say Colin Kaepernick. I always see like famous NFL people in there.
Hey,
Like if Vinatieri would have hit that field goal, I literally. Like I would have lost. I guarantee you, yesterday I would have been like, "All right, I'm going to the 5th floor, and I'm gonna go into the NFL office and be like, where's Goodell? Where's Goodell? This pass interference is BS."
yeah, I'm sure there's going to be no one in his way, and you'll be able to just go up there and clock him. Well, hey, you bring up something kind of interesting. Real quick, I don't want to get too deep into this, but the Colin Kaepernick thing, with so many quarterbacks not being great this year. I actually heard somebody call up the other day. He was pretty outraged about how nobody was mentioning Colin Kaepernick. And do you even think that Colin Kaepernick seriously wants to play football at this point in his career, White? What do you think about that? If he was given a solid starting job, do you think he even wants to come back, or do you think he likes being kind of seen as?
I don't think he wants to play football, but I do think he wants to play in the NFL. Because, you know, like when you have like the XFL and like the Canadian League, like Kaepernick shows no interest in playing football in other leagues.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like to stick it to the NFL or if it's like maybe he has too much, you know, hubris to like be like, oh, I'm not going to play in the Canadian League. I literally brought a team to a Super Bowl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, like, clearly he's much better than, like, any backup in the league. You know, like, especially in this year where you see people like Kyler Murray, you see people like Lamar Jackson, like, scrambling quarterbacks are always in. You know what I mean? They're always in, like, because if you just look at Kyler Murray, like, this dude's a rookie, and he hasn't even played more than, like, a year in college. And he's, like, doing pretty well only because he can run around. Same with Lamar Jackson. So it's like Kaepernick could easily do the same thing.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. And, we always appreciate Whitey calling in, touching in from Queens to give us the latest. Colin Kaepernick, something that I feel like people are always – I mean, I feel like it's something where he just – I don't even think that Colin Kaepernick would come back if you gave him the creme de la creme job. What's your thought on that? Because somebody brought that up the other day, and I just feel like we've been about 3 years out of that. Bless you. And we've also, I think they said that there's been 100-some-odd quarterbacks or something that have gotten, a roster spot, basically, since he's been out of the league. So where do you kind of land on that, Brian?
Yeah, I think it's been too much time. Too much time out of the league. I agree. He doesn't seem to be feeling it, and it's just been too much time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I think it's interesting how often he'll kind of get brought up with some of these. You have your Gardner Minshew's, and sadly, Minshew mania ended in a very a steep and violent crash. I mean, no, he only put up 3 points there in his last game, and it's so funny because probably two weeks before is almost a situation with where the Jets were a couple weeks ago. They're almost everyone's favorite darling a couple weeks later, but you see what happens. You're the backup quarterback. Everyone loves you, and then you throw a couple picks. Everybody's pumped to get the starter back. I mean, it feels like the Jags couldn't be happier to have Nick Foles back in the fold. And, so that'll be interesting because we really haven't seen him get to kind of own a team. He's always been that guy who's been better as a backup. He's gone to a team. He went to the Rams that year and was god-awful. Jeff Fisher was there, so anytime Jeff Fisher's part of anything, I mean, he was part of Goff's first year too, and that's like one of the historic bad rookie. I can remember thinking Goff was never going to be able to. I can remember thinking Goff was going to be like a bust based off how bad he was just as a. And not even to rate quarterbacks from their rookie year like that. So, why don't we lock it up and put a little bit of money in the grave here? I'm going to pick 5 games against the spread, and we're going to launch a new segment. Brian, hit it.
Now it's time to put some money in the grave. Billy Allen picks 5 games against the spread.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, you get the idea. You're putting a little bit of money away here.
Lil CC on the beat.
And we can let this go down.
Yeah.
But I've got 5 games for you. I'm trying to pick the 5 games that are tough for me. So you've got Buffalo at the Cleveland Browns this weekend. And you've got Buffalo favored by 2.5. I am taking Buffalo. Normally I feel like I'd be the type where I would take Cleveland, say that they've got to make their best. This has got to be their best last shot. They're 2-6. They lose this, they go 2-7 and completely come unwound. But Buffalo has the number 3 ranked defense. Cleveland's ranked 30th against the run. I kind of like Frank Gore to find a little bit of youth in those old 35-year-old legs and to chunk for some yardage. The Buffalo Bills have been winning close games. They're 6-2, and I'm taking them against the spread at Cleveland. Game number 2 is going to be Arizona at Tampa Bay. You've got Tampa Bay favored -5. I'm going to go with the upset on that one. I'm taking Arizona. Kyler Murray has been playing way better than a rookie quarterback that I've seen in the last couple of years. He's really got an ability to throw the ball, to maneuver in the pocket. You're looking at a matchup of 2 of the worst pass defenses, so it should be a pass-happy day. It should be some good, if you have any receivers in that game, probably a good one. But I like Kyler Murray to outwit the Grizzly and majorly ineffective vet in Jameis. I think Jameis throws a couple turnovers. Lord knows it's probably not going to be Patrick Peterson that picks him off because he has just fallen off the absolute planet. Game number 3, Detroit, you've got at the Chicago Bears, and the Bears are favored at -2.5. Both of these teams, they're 1-8 in their last 9. Detroit's got a 27th ranked scoring defense. Chicago's got a 6th ranked scoring defense. Detroit's got no running back, and with the defense that the Bears have, I'm going to like them to take that win. So I like the Bears to be able to take that. Game 4, I've got Minnesota at Dallas. You've got the Cowboys favored -3. Adam Thielen is probably going to be missing in this game. And the Cowboys, with them getting right, I like them to come back in another strong effort. Give me the Cowboys in that one. And then probably the biggest game of the week, Seattle at San Fran. And you've got San Fran -5.5. Give me Seattle. I'm going to say Seattle is going to knock the 49ers to their first loss on the road. San Fran, they've been playing really good football. I could absolutely see why they could win this game. I think it's definitely going to be close. You could see kind of like a 20-17 game here. But I ultimately like Seattle to come up and win this game. I think Russell Wilson has just been playing at an absolute otherworld level. He adds Josh Gordon to the mix. He now has 3 6'3", about 240-pound receivers, absolute behemoths that he can just throw the ball up to. I like Seattle. So give me Seattle in game number 5, and let's give the San Fran their first loss. So there's our quick 5. Now, with that being said, Russell Wilson and Christian McCaffrey, I mean, these guys are just absolutely having insane games. I think Russell Wilson had 45 points this weekend, 5 passing touchdowns. this guy just seems to be able to do it without an offensive line every single year. I mean, how much have we talked this year in New England about the offensive line issues, about what you don't get with a running game?
And boy, were they on display.
And look what you've had out of Russell Wilson the past few years. Has he had a solid running back since Marshawn Lynch, Mr. Skittles? No. I mean, you've had, Carson going in and out. You've had Christine Michael coming in and out. You've had Michael Robinson. You've had a whole slew of different guys coming in there. You really haven't had that 100-yard game. You haven't had that solid running back. You really haven't had a solid offensive line. And I want to say that during 2 of those years where they had a really bad offensive line, pretty sure one of those years was one of the years where he led the league in touchdowns with 35.
And which of their, and for receivers, they have a bunch of 2, maybe 3s.
Yeah, right. And it's something where it seems like Russell Wilson really is that guy that kind of throws to the open receiver. He makes his reads, and God, we used to say this about Tom Brady, but Brady makes all the reads unless the guy's under 30. At least what it seems like now. It seems like Brady is so used to. I mean, we saw the bond right away with Sanu. It's like just because he's a little bit older, and you just kind of see it in training camp the way that he was. In some of the different camps, you see him just hanging out with some of the older players, and I feel like it's been something that we've always really loved about Tom Brady and that we've always tried to praise is the fact that he gets with these guys and makes it work. And it's interesting that we're at a point where Jacoby Myers, he can be wide open, and maybe I'll throw to him a couple times, but I really want somebody that's been around the block. And you kind of saw him almost – was it me, or did it seem like he was really focused on Edelman and Sanu? It didn't really seem like his eyes left those 2 guys. And so we're getting off a little bit on a tangent there for the Baltimore game that we really didn't go a whole lot into. It was, really a very un-Pats-like game. When Marlon Humphrey took that 70-yarder to the house, I mean, I think that's – everybody was saying that, it was almost, where's the flag? Where's the – but, and for a defense that had named themselves the Boogeymen to give up 30 points, granted, seven did come off the defense there, so giving up 30 points, it's interesting because you feel like the Pats are kind of playing their first regular season game, so to speak, in this one. In their first test – it wasn't as good as you'd like it to go. They could not move the ball when they needed to in critical spots, and Baltimore absolutely could. That was, you saw, I think New England had a couple key stops, in like the third quarter, and then you saw right after that it was like Lamar Jackson put together 2 of the most efficient passing drives just coming right down, and, they were really able to. The thing, too, was you look at the score, you look at the box score afterwards, it was like Lamar Jackson had like 160 yards passing, maybe 60 yards rushing. You would have said, okay, if we keep him under 80 yards on the ground, we keep him under 200 yards in the air, but just very efficient, and they got to play from ahead. And they're a team that has really relied on running the ball. So it wasn't a team that you really saw coming in and being able to score something like 37. I definitely saw them putting up something more like 17, 20, 24 if they were going to score. I thought 24 would kind of be where they would max out. So for their running offense and their brand of football, it was definitely probably a welcome surprise for New England, I think, in some ways. I feel like Brady and Belichick afterwards were almost more happy, I think, to have that loss and to be talking to some of the – I mean, certainly not Belichick. Belichick was pretty tough after that, but it was almost like Brady, for the first time this year, I think, sounded optimistic after a game, after they lost. He was like, hey, we've still got so much left in the season, and what we are is based off the next 7 weeks, not after what we done. It's like, oh, my God, that sounds like Tom Brady. So it was the first time, really. I feel like Brady's kind of sounded like himself this year. But it opens an interesting question. Where do both teams go from here? Is the Pats defense, are they the boogeymen? Should we hold the presses on the printers on those? Or is the Baltimore offense, is it that dynamic? I mean, they're second in the league in points a game. They run the ball a lot, and you wouldn't expect them to score at the rate that they do running the ball. But they've definitely put together a team that's been tough to stop. They're 6-2. And Lamar Jackson, I think Lamar Jackson is 15-3 or 15-4 as a starter in the regular season. So, you've got to take this guy. We had a little bit of a conversation of it a couple of weeks ago, but from all indications, I think you have to look at Lamar Jackson as a legitimate quarterback moving forward. He could certainly, for me, I see the injury risk a bit more than some other quarterbacks just because he's a little bit slight and is going to run it more. But you see guys like Breeze get hurt. You see guys like Brady tore an ACL. So it happens. And not saying that a pocket quarterback is obviously going to get hurt at the same likelihood that a running quarterback would. But at some point, when Lamar Jackson has really put together 2 nice regular seasons so far, you got to consider this guy pretty legit. And for a guy that seemed pretty raw, he may not be the most accurate quarterback, but he's a lot more skilled as a thrower than I think a lot of us thought. I think a lot of us thought he's kind of a runner that can pass. And you start looking after a game like this weekend and saying, maybe he's a passer who can run. And that's the ultimate kind of compliment in these days, because that's what you're talking about when you're talking about guys like Russell Wilson and guys like Aaron, blah, blah, blah. Couple quick things as we just finish up on the NFL. Dan Quinn from the Atlanta Falcons. This is a guy that desperately needs to get fired as well. He's competing with Gase, but he reassigned 3 of his staff members. And I'm just wondering, is that really what's going to fuel the turnaround? Not something with the players, not something in the strategy. I'm going to send the guy who watches tapes on Thursday to watch him on Friday or whatever it is. And it's just like, so many of these teams are just so backwards. It's like, all right, yeah, let me reassign a couple staff members. Here comes the 8-0 second half. So just for a team that's been so bad, and Dan Quinn who's trying to hang on to a job, hopefully those staff members pull their weight and he can have some type of turnaround. But it's interesting for me as Michael Bennett continues to destroy yet another team's chemistry, standing on the sideline in the Cowboy debut. You don't even get the debut with this guy where he sits with the team, and he's got to just – because we look at Michael Bennett, and he's such a talented player, but he's been on 4 or 5 teams in the last 4, 5, 6 seasons, it seems like. And you just look at that first game, him standing on the sideline in the Cowboy debut, away from all of his teammates, and it's just like, how effective is that protest at this point? Is that really worth not getting in the mix with your teammates when you join a new place, especially a team like the Cowboys? Not the best look for me, I guess. Protest all you want once you're like kind of on the team. I guess it would be kind of like getting a new job, right? I get a new job and then I'm asking when's lunch. The first question through, it's like at least show us you can pick up the defense before you start protesting and causing hell.
Yeah.
But speaking of causing hell, one last thought there is Kellen Winslow, a man who caused a lot of hell, taking a plea deal and putting him for 12 to 18 years in prison, which is absolutely insane because I feel like if I was Kellen Winslow with the same charges against me, I just think the NFL this is a guy that was convicted of multiple rapes of older women and, women in their 50s and 60s, and is going to do 12 to 18 years in prison, and I just think that's an absolute joke. So you got to wonder here how he got that plea deal. 12 to 18 years in prison, Kellen Winslow, a guy that a couple of years through his career looked like a guy that was probably going to be pegged for the Hall of Fame, and you've seen this guy just melt down in the absolute worst way. So a pleasant thought there as we cap up the NFL. There's definitely a lot to talk as far as the NBA, as the Celtics are in the middle of one against the Cleveland Cavaliers right now.
That's gone final.
That's gone final.
That has
okay.
gone final
Ah.
with a
Talking in the past tense.
Celtics 119-113 victory on the road against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And Billy, check this out.
Who do we got?
Gordon Hayward went off. 17 of 20 for 39 points, 8 dimes, 7 rebounds.
Wow.
Maybe has Kyrie Irving leaving town been the best thing possible for Gordon Hayward? I mean, did we maybe know that going into this season?
I think the smile on my face is, I think it's one, I'm honestly really happy for Gordon Hayward because you heard continuously throughout the year that this summer he was at the gym every single day at 6 a.m. working on his rehab. So it's like one thing when a guy can't get back. It's another thing when a guy is giving every ounce and still in the prime of his career to really get that back.
Maybe, and that might be more the thing is he's out of, he's not afraid of the injury anymore.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe that more than Kyrie Irving.
You can see that in his game 100% from this year to last year. You can even still see in some instances where there's that hesitation, but compared to, he is just jumping in. You said it, 8 rebounds tonight or so. I know going into tonight he was averaging 7.6. So he's been a guy that's been on the glass all year. Going into this game, you said he put up 39 or so.
39 points on 17 of 20 shooting.
So he was averaging 7. So that's the other thing. He's been shooting extremely well. He's been shooting 55% from 3 going into this game. And he's been shooting very effectively from field goal. He's honestly done pretty much everything we all said we needed to see from him. I think we all said if he could get back to 15 points, 5 boards, if he can hit shots with some consistency, because we saw last year with the injury, the three-point effectiveness dipped off a little bit. So we said, if he can get closer to that 40 mark, give us 15 points, grab some rebounds, and it looks like he's going to be able to do even more than that. Because, like I said, he's shooting really well. He's rebounding. The thing that's most exciting for me is the rebounds. You look at that number, and that's a number that you're typically not going to see attached to his name for a rebounding count. To be averaging 8 boards for the first 6 games of this year, I think that's, absolutely outstanding for him. So to answer your question, I think the loss of Kyrie, I think all you have to do is ask the Nets, who were a playoff team last year and are off to a 2-4 start, and the Celtics, who had Kyrie last year and are now off to and got rid of him, and they're now off to a 5-1 start, number 1 in the East right now. So it's only 6 games. But everything looks good. It's been Kemba scoring 26 a night. It's been Tatum scoring 22. It's been a lot of where we said we kind of needed to see guys in order to have a successful year. We knew they didn't ultimately have the talent of the team last year, but it's that whole thing that you talked about where hopefully the sum is greater than the parts. And I think the Nets, who are already voicing the fact that Kyrie has had some displeasure in certain points at games where he may not have gotten the last shot or yelling at some of the young guys, it feels great to be a Celtics fan looking at them and just saying, ha, 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 because you kind of just knew the way that this guy was that it seems like he could make a decision because he left the Cavaliers, which was a team where he was leading them in shots and winning championships. He gets the team in the Celtics where you finally get to own that team that's competitive. And he shot his way out of pretty much every scenario. So you ask yourself, Kyrie, if you could even put it on a piece of paper, do you know what's going to make you happy? So I think it all sounds great to go home. How ridiculous is it that they're tying Anthony Davis? The Lakers have a game against Chicago. They're already talking about Anthony Davis potentially going to Chicago because that's where he grew up. Everybody knows that there's already a 5-year deal with the Lakers. You can't tamper. So there's not that deal. You can't discuss that deal until free agent. But let's be real here. And so the thought, just the main point there is that everybody thinks it's sexy to go home. It's the big emotional story. Kyrie, you went home. You get to hang out with that crossing guard that you loved so much when you were 9, and you're the only one who watched the Nets. You're the only one who has memories watching the Nets, honestly, that I can remember. So it all sounds nice, but you get back there, you've got young guys, you've got other guys that need the ball. Now, Kyrie has been scoring really well. He's around 32 points. I think he's actually second in the NBA. To Harden, because I think Harden's shooting 60 shots a game. So I just think law of averages.
Right.
But, he's been scoring a lot, but they're not putting up wins. And I think the funniest thing is that DeAndre Jordan, who had to come along for the ride, is already injured, already hardly playing. That guy's got a big contract tied. So, can your buddies be upset too? And it's just like, for a guy who has friends tattooed on him, you never know what's going to be the next drama card to fall with this guy. And, God, it's nice that he's out of here, because it really does seem like the Celtics, I mean, it may sound hokey and all that, and it definitely is, but, they look like they're having fun out there. I think that's something that you can definitely say. And they haven't been averaging the most assists, but they're passing the ball. The ball doesn't stick like it does with a guy. You don't have anybody on this team that you kind of just sit and watch. And I feel like Kyrie at some times became that guy for the Celtics team. It's how do I exert myself when Kyrie wants to shoot every other shot in the fourth quarter? So it's nice when you have some guys that are willing to give it up. And it's pretty cool that although Kemba Walker's this, kind of superstar, he's really never been there in the moment. So it's almost like they all kind of have to acquiesce for different reasons. He hasn't been there. Then some of the other guys don't have the skill that he does. So it's like everybody's they've got this feel where they can bring in different centers. You just really don't see a lot of arguments. Last year it just felt like everybody kind of hated each other and kind of hated the season. It seemed like it was just dragging along. So, that is definitely something that we like to see. A little bit more fun out of this NBA season. Brandon Ingram actually put up 40 last night. We're talking about guys who had some pretty good stats, and Brandon Ingram, in the absence
coming off an injury,
in the absence of Zion Williamson. Everybody was worried about Zion Williamson. You now have Brandon Ingram averaging 26 points a game through his first 8 games. Really taking that step. He's been a guy who's been around 12, 13, 14. It's been nice when he's been able to score 15. So the fact that he's coming out and been able to put down 26 a game. Same thing for Malcolm Brogdon, guy that's averaging 23 and 11 right now. And for a guy that has never averaged more than, I think it's 5 assists or 4.5 assists, quite a leap. So I think the Pacers, I still say this. I think when the Pacers get Oladipo back, I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. They may not be the 1 seed, the 2 seed, but I think they'll be there.
They did lose to Charlotte tonight, 122 to 120.
Never mind.
Totally sour
Never mind. No. No, but and that's what you have through the beginning of this year, right? You always have so many interesting things when there's only been a few games played. For instance, you have Luka Doncic, who is pretty much averaging a triple-double already through his first 6 games in the NBA. You also have Andre Drummond, who's averaging 19.4 rebounds a game through 8 games. It's pretty much rare for him to get a game where he gets less than 22 rebounds. Like when you look at his box score, it's like, so that's been the closest number since Wilt Chamberlain 50 years ago. Nobody's been around that. Another historic number that we have to look at is right below. So Wilt Chamberlain, in the year where he established the record for points per game, he shot 17 free throws a game. James Harden is right behind that pace, 16 and a half free throws a game through the beginning here. And I don't know, can Harden close in on the free throw record. If you're asking me, if there's anybody, it's got to be him.
It's him. Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, some pretty cool stats that people have already. I will say, though, I mean, every morning when I need to get a smile on my face, I just look at Harden's shooting percentages, and, that kind of refreshes me for the day. But it's like, man, he has had a tough year. He has not been to effect. So he's scoring 37 points a night, but he's shooting 25% from three, and he's turning the ball over 5.7 times a game. Him and Russell Westbrook together are turning the ball over 10 times a game between them. So, you look to try to keep the turnovers to about that number for a whole game, and you've got your two stars. It's literally a game of me, anything you can do, I can do better when you look at that Rockets team. So kind of look at teams that have fallen off and gone to different places. How about
there's been some in this early going. There's a lot of topsy-turviness in the Western Conference.
I mean, there was this team that everybody said was this dynasty. They were the Warriors or something. The Warriors. And I mean, it's right. Isn't that like how we are with the It's crazy because we thought the Warriors were still going to be angling for a championship, really. I mean, I didn't think they were going to win a championship, but I thought that they'd probably advance through a round or two in the playoffs, be pretty consistent. And with the hand injury to Curry, and then with all the other injuries that everybody knows about, they've really fallen off. And you've got teams like the Phoenix Suns that are actually dominating right now. So Aaron Baines, everyone from the Celtics is pretty familiar. Aaron Baines is averaging 15 points a game this year, and he's averaging making 2.5 threes a game this year. So is that going to keep up? 100%. No. Last year, he pretty much played about 15 minutes a game. So I think it's incredible how he's been able to pick up a three-point shot so quickly. I mean, you certainly have to give him credit for that. But they do have DeAndre Ayton, who's out for the 25 games. I do think, a couple games in here, eventually you're going to have him float back down. But when you look at them, I can't even really understand necessarily why they're so good. I know that their coach said they want to pass it like 300 times a game or something. That's been a point of emphasis for them. But it's Devin Booker. It's Kelly Oubre Jr. It's after that, there's really not a whole lot. You've got Ricky Rubio. So I think they're a nice story out of the gate. But long story short, I think, and Dario Saric is starting for them at power forward. It's a nice story out of the gate, and I don't want to have to be the one to crush it, but I'm going to crush it and say that I don't think that they're going to be the team that we think that the Denver Nuggets or some of those other teams out in the West are definitely going to be. And speaking of some of those teams, the Los Angeles Lakers have really gotten off to a pretty hot start. You've got LeBron leading the league in assists as this year he's the point guard. And you've got Anthony Davis leading this year in blocks. You've got him up there he's fifth in scoring. He's also up there in rebounds. So you've really got him doing a multitude of different things. And you have Dwight Howard, who's come off the bench to put up 2.5 blocks a game. So you're getting you're getting 5.5 blocks out of your two centers right now if you're looking at the Los Angeles Lakers. I mean, when did we ever think we'd see Dwight Howard playing in a backup capacity?
Yeah.
So while he may not be that great as a starter anymore, I mean, to have him coming off the bench, swatting 2.5 shots for you, dunking a few, grabbing a couple rebounds, it's been a nice luxury for them. So LeBron James and Doncic had a nice little matchup the other night. It was kind of like the passing of the torch, almost.
That was a fun game. I watched a good bunch of that game, especially the end. And that it was a duel. It was a classic NBA.
People kind of put it akin to like a Jordan versus Kobe or a Jordan versus Allen Iverson. Some of those moments where it's like the predecessor, and you can kind of see, this is what the NBA is going to be for the next 10 years or so. Mm-hmm. You've still got it for that last second. But, yeah, so the thing about Doncic is while he's at a triple-double pretty much, so many people want to talk about the Westbrook's triple-double or whatever. It's all about the effectiveness behind it. So Doncic has a true shooting percentage of 55%. And, some of the things that he's doing as far as the shooting percentages that he's putting on top of this, absolutely incredible. And then we have to check ourselves and remember, this guy's 21 years old. So his body's only going to get bigger. He's probably only going to be stronger, faster. Skies seems to be the limit for this guy who his rookie stats probably didn't even do him justice. It was about 21 points, 6 boards, 6 assists. But this is a guy that averaged those things as a rookie and could potentially win Most Improved Player so far on what he's done. So it's been pretty crazy to see for him to do. And I will admit all day long that I did not see that coming from a mile away when they took him from Europe. I mean, I hadn't watched him as much as I should have and all that, but I said, skinny, 6'7" guy.
Right.
But the skill is just all there, right? And the shooting. So
he can shoot and he can take it off the dribble.
And what else do you want? Exactly. It's like kind of like a running quarterback, right? In this NBA, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
So a couple guys still that need to pick up there were a couple guys that were recently drafted over the past couple of years. Lonzo Ball and Markelle Fultz still looking very mediocre out of the gate. Markelle Fultz hardly even getting about 20 minutes for the Orlando Magic. He's around 9 points a game. Lonzo's been a bit better. He's around 12 points, 6 boards, 6 assists. He shot it okay. But I don't know, just not what you thought you were getting at Alonzo Ball when he was drafted. And when you have LaMelo just continuing to impress every weekend overseas, there were just scouts all over his last game. Apparently their second player was out, so he did even more. And, people actually have LaMelo Ball pegged as a first-round pick. There are people the number 1 overall pick, which is pretty crazy. And I think we all kind of saw Alonzo Ball at that a few years ago. So to see him, tattering around at 12 points, 5 assists, it's not bad, but it's not what we thought we were getting from a baller, a certified BBB. So we'll see if Lonzo can pick things up. We know Ingram certainly has. And Karl Anthony Towns, still leading the league in threes a game.
Wow.
4.5 threes a game for Karl Anthony Towns. So 4.5 threes made per game. From a legit 7-footer?
Yeah.
Is this anything you think he can possibly sustain? Is there any chance you think he leads the league in 3-pointers made this year?
Zero chance.
I think there's 0 chance, but I wouldn't say that he'll be out of the top 5 most likely.
Oh no, he can shoot. He can, and he'll take it. But I mean, that's gonna end up going to Harden or Westbrook.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Harden just shoots way too. I mean, Harden's literally shooting 14 threes a game. I feel right now. And then you've had some really impressive rookies. You had Eric Pascal, who seems to be the next Draymond Green, maybe the next second-round find for the Golden State Warriors. Puts up 36 points in a game last night. He's been the rookie who's scored the most 20-point games. So him and Nunn have both put up 3 20-point games. So you've got Eric Pascal doing some pretty impressive things over there. And Isaiah Thomas, saw him in an interview today saying that it can't rain forever. And apparently for this guy, his career is just in Seattle because it's just absolute, hasn't been able to get back, hasn't been able to be effective. And I'll tell you something, Miami facing Denver tonight, that's a game that I actually like. I mean, Miami is doing a lot better than a lot of people thought. I kind of said put them as one of your dark horse teams. Jimmy Butler hasn't even really gotten in there and been able to play as much. They've got a decent center. They've got a couple nice young pieces. So Miami starting out of the gate pretty good, facing a good Denver team. So that should be a pretty good matchup tonight, and be interested to see how those teams compare. I mean, I certainly think Denver would be likely to win that game, but Miami has proved pretty impressive out of the gate.
And you currently have a 53-45 edge for Denver with a minute and a half to go in the first half.
All right. Well, I definitely think there are going to be good things for Denver this year. Not necessarily that they win the chip, but you could see that team winning 55, 60 games and doing pretty good in the playoffs. And we did pretty good for us tonight. That's going to do it for us here at Open Season. For Brian Murphy, I'm Billy Allen, and we'll catch you next week.
I'm just not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate I've got Brian Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. He's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And Mitch, I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's your bad.